everybody to this international launch of short films from Indonesia on interfaith understanding. We organized this partnership between the HL-Senteret Inclusive Citizenship Project and Lutheran World Federation and Minority Rights Group International as a joint effort to raise the awareness on how interfaith understanding may be promoted and disseminated through film and also through education. I give the floor to our distinguished moderator, Sivan Kitt from the Lutheran World Federation, who is taking us through this from his office in Geneva. Please, Sivan.
Hi there. My name is Sivan Kitt. I'm the Program Executive for Public Theology and Interreligious Relations with the Lutheran World Federation. I'd like to welcome you on behalf of the organizers. For the first film, I'd like to introduce to you is produced by KNLWF, Committee National, the Lutheran World Federation, and Jakarta.
Mana aja kan kita kirimkan bantuan ini?
Cukup untuk satu desa terakhir.
Pernah ke desa itu sebelumnya?
Belum. Kalau lihat di peta sih sepertinya nggak susah. Nggak banyak persimpangan jalan.
Nggak semudah itu. Banyak jalan baru yang belum terpetakan. Ada juga jalan lama yang mungkin udah terputus. Lagi pula, nggak semua jalan cocok dan bisa dilalui oleh kendaraan ini. Kita nggak benar-benar bisa tahu jalan mana yang sesuai untuk kita. Mungkin bisa aja semua jalan saling terhubung dan ternyata ketemu di tempat yang sama. Tapi kemanapun tujuannya, bukankah pada akhirnya kamu tetap harus memilih jalan yang kamu yakini?
Buka! Hai Susa, tinggalkan desa ini sekarang juga. Cepat!
Saya ambil anak ini dulu, Bos.
Ayo cepat! Pergi dari sini!
Kiri. Aku nggak tahu kemana tempat yang kutuju. Dan aku nggak terlalu berharap tempat itu ada. Tapi yang ku tahu pasti, ada jalan yang gak ingin ku lewati lagi. Bolehkah aku marah? Bolehkah aku lelah dan menyerah? Kadang aku bertanya, di antara doa, keinginan, dan harapan-harapan kita, adakah pernah meminta sekedar ingin menjadi manusia?
And that was the movie Place Among the Stars, a very personal story. I'd like to invite the director, Risto, to join me right now. And Risto, and congratulations on producing and directing this film. Now, I guess the viewer might be interested to know, why did you choose a more personal approach to tell the story? And there's kind of a lot of metaphors here and there, road, directions. But let's start with that. Why did you decide to go personal rather than a big story? Something. Go ahead.
Yeah, we believe that based on our experience on campaigning the tolerance and diversity issues, we feel that personal sides of story give us more inspirations than the dogmatic or the theoretical or conceptual approach. But as long as we try to use the personal story, it's give us the more than the knowledge, but also the experience, and we deal with our emotions, our vulnerability, and our desires to know the others. So it will be a great situations when you can know something about the diversity, but you only can experience the diversity by embrace it with your personal experience. I think we try to enlarge that concept on this movie.
And then there was also a bit of there was some kind of reconciliation. There was a conflict. It was like a family conflict going on in there, right? And can you elaborate a bit more about the direction that you were going with this, especially in the context of Indonesia?
Yeah. Well, we don't mention the religions, we don't mention the place or something, but from what we see in the movie, people can get some assumptions that this the conflict of religions about the minority religions in our Indonesian conditions. But yes. In our condition in Indonesia, there's sometimes a little bit conflict about the discriminations to the minorities and to the people who have the heretic view, assumption as a heretic view. That it happens. So we can say that this movie based on true story, but we a little bit dramatically elaborate it to the movie, so it can be experience our we can feel the experience and become universal for other people who have ever been discriminated.
And so that's interesting, right? From a director's point of view, even though it is a very particular story, but there's a universal application. Yeah. And in your experience of working on this, what were some things that you find that was your highlight as a director? for you?
We found that the stories is so simple, but we find that it touches every of us. So this movie is created by collaboration. Yeah, most of us from the other different and some of our crew are the first time engaged with religious diversity issues. So they got the point by experience to making this movie. So we feel that our campaign is not only through the campaign or the personal or the conceptual campaign, but we also have them to experience diversity by feel what the stories of this movie bring them.
Thank you so much. So it's not just the story in itself, but there's a story behind the story, which is the stories of the crew and all those who are doing it, because all of you come from different backgrounds yourself.
Yes.
And you're not from one religious grouping. So there's a story behind the story, and that's probably something for us to reflect on. So thank you, Risto, for this brief little interview. And if there's one thing that you enjoyed the most, what is that one thing that you enjoyed the most doing this film?
I enjoy most of the people for the first time to see this movie when we screen this in the closed or the restricted screening. They feel stirred up by their emotions and they then ask what the meaning of this movie. So that's what the point we're gonna do is this movie, to make people reflecting and to make people connect the movie through their experience and their understanding of religious diversity and above of us the humanity.
Thank you so much. Really, this is very exciting to hear from you directly, and we're going to bring in the panel right now to just reflect a bit on your movie and to share with us what they think. So thank you, Risto. So the panel would be Fernando, who is one of the producers of the movie, and we have Sam from Minority Group International, and also Ingvil as well from HL-Senteret and Inclusive Citizen Project. So Sam, would you want to get us started? When you watched it, what did you feel? What were some things that came to your mind?
Sure. Well, I want to start by saying thank you, Risto, for this film. It was very touching to watch, very moving, and it leaves the viewer with a lot of things to reflect on afterwards in just 6 minutes, you know. My initial reaction was this notion that a key factor that contributes to interfaith understanding is, you know, making sure that different points of views and experiences are understood and accessed. And I feel this film does exactly that. You know, even the title, the choice of your title, A Place Among the Stars, I feel that it indicates this idea of belonging, so seeking to belong. And the film, to me, how I understood it is that you can see a lot of pain behind a message when someone's told that you don't belong in society. And you've done it so magically and movingly that I think it's unpacked this complex notion of belonging and seeking to belong. But I also loved how you showed the courage of the protagonist to reopen old wounds. You know, this whole reflective movement, the whole discourse on journeys. So turning left and actually making that decision. It marked the decision made to revisit these wounds and promote this idea that it's okay to continue discussing these things and revisit this pain. So that was just, you know, a few initial thoughts for me. I thought it was very moving. And again, I thank you for putting it together, just from conceptualization to actually producing it. It's fantastic.
So Ingvil, what do you think?
Yes, well, I actually got this feeling when I watched the film that it says something deeply important and deeply touching about the fact that we are all humans and the importance of seeing one another as such, as human beings. And although there are differences and we have to recognize the differences and respect them, and they are very important for the identity of every person, including differences of faith, we are always human beings. And I think that is one of the messages, at least to me, of this film, that the guy who was the perpetrator managed to see beyond his hostile images, his group hostility, his stereotypes, the coldness in his heart, fell away for a second, and he could see that these are human beings, and by that it helped him to reach out and find his own humanity, sort of, which he hadn't been in touch with, and by that reached out to them as on an equal ground. And I think that's at least what our center works on here at the HL-Senteret and on the Inclusive Citizenship Project, is to show that there is a danger of creating group stereotypes and group hostility, and we have to see beyond that, because it can lead to mass atrocities at the end and human rights violations. We have to stick to the fact that we are all human beings and not dehumanize one another, although there are differences.
Even though there's so many human wrongs, right? But we are still trying to focus on human rights and how to put things right. Appreciate that comment. Fernando, you are actually dialing in all the way from Indonesia, Sulawesi, and giving us a feel of Indonesia right behind you. And how did you feel when you watched the film? And of course, you were part of the production as well. Maybe there were some reflections on that. But let's just go with the film first. What are key themes that was very important for you?
Yes, I found this movie very touching, very like it delivers a good understanding about interfaith diet praxis. You know, the film A Place Among the Stars. The film delivers a different perspective of overcoming hatred and limitation of human rights, because we know, like, the film shows that the lady's human rights is deprived of by someone. And of course, this is about human rights, about freedom of religion or belief. And, you know, many times also voices of the victims are not heard by the authority for the reason of keeping public tranquility in many cases in Indonesia. And, and you know, in the film, however, the victim does not stop to build good relations with the perpetrators and with the community where the perpetrators are living. So the interfaith diet practice teaches us like how to use other ways of overcoming hatred, of overcoming limitation of human rights by doing something, by establishing dialogue, but more practically, more praxis. So, you know, in the film, she realizes that everyone in this pandemic time has been hardly hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. You know, the crew there in the film were wearing the face mask. You know, that shows that this is the pandemic time, and she led herself to voluntarily act to distribute social assistance to many people, including those who perpetrated her rights in the past. So interfaith diet praxis, of course, she shows in the film, is a unique way that many people should find whenever legalistic approach is less enforceable. You know, sometimes many human rights violations are not cannot be claimed by the victims because of, you know, public tranquility issues and reasons, for example. You know, and the two keywords I can say in this at the moment is mutuality and commonality are the keywords for understanding interfaith diet praxis, because dialogue may be very often built under certain circumstances, for example, time, famine, climate change, and so on. So interfaith diet praxis teaches us how to build relationship through seeing our mutual problems and have been brought onto the table to address together, regardless what religions or identity we belong to.
So it's not just about dialogue, but actually right action, not just learning how to talk to each other, but do things together and not waiting for things to happen at a government level, structural level, even though that's important. But there's a personal story there. Sam, Ingvild, would you like to add to that after hearing Fernando and also others? What are some other thoughts that you have?
My simple question after watching this movie is, and this is from one of the participants, would it be possible to be human in a world where monotheistic religions had spread all almost all over the world and treating humanity based upon their theistic understandings. So this is a challenge, I assume, to religions, where religion is used to suppress humanity. But I would just like to comment that I fully appreciate that perspective, and definitely it's true in many situations. But just like ideologies and life perspectives of different kinds can be misused, also religions can be misused. But I think at the bottom of most religions that I know, there is a deep sense of humanity and equal human dignity. And although that is not always practiced, neither by religious or non-religious persons, that is a resource in all or most religions. And that's the resource that we should build upon for equal dignity and seeing each other as humans, as I said. So I think it's a challenge for both religious and non-religious persons, I would think.
What do you think?
I would agree with what Ingvild said. I feel at the end of the day, it comes down to, as Ingvild said, humanity. So actually being able to see the impacts of our own beliefs on others, and whether that is truly what we want to live by. And I think that bringing it back to Rizdo's film, I think it does, the film does that. It shows, it humanizes these complex problems, and it shows the emotions behind these actions. And so, yeah, I think it comes down back to humanity at the end of the day.
Thank you. And it's interesting, we are experiencing some humanity over Zoom and YouTube right now, actually screen to screen, and trying to get some face-to-face encounter. And we do look forward to actually meet in person. And congratulations once again to Risto, Fernando, and team for producing this actually in the midst of this pandemic. So
yes,
just want to appreciate that.
Our deep congratulations to the team. And thank you for doing this
Thank
with
you.
the support of Norway.
Thank you.
كيف يمكننا تعزيز إحساسنا بالمجتمع عبر اختلافات المعتقدات والتقاليد؟ كيف يمكن للأغلبية والأقليات تطوير شعور أقوى بالمجتمع؟ في عام 2019 نظمت مجموعة من نشطاء المجتمع المدني رحلة بين الأديان في كردستان العراق للأشخاص ذوي الهويات الدينية المختلفة. الأيزيديين والمسلمين والمسيحيين والكاكايين والصابئة المندائيين، وقاموا بزيارة مواقع دينية مهمة لأقليتين دينيتين مختلفتين، المواقع المسيحية في آلقوش والموقع الديني الأيزيدي لالش.
طبعا أنا مسلم ومن الموصل، هاي أول مرة أجي على مدينة لالش المقدسة. شعور رائع وإحساس روحاني كلش قوي دا أشعر به حاليا، وفرحان إنه باستقبال أهل لالش إلنا وللأيزيديين، شلون مستقبلينا، شلون يشرحون لنا بحب، يريدون يوصلون لنا أفكار، يريدون يوصلون لنا شهادة المقدسة مالهم. حسيت إنه قدسية المكان، حسيت بفرحة لأن أنا هنا، لأن عاد أشوف الأخوة الأيزيديين يمارسون طقوسهم، وطبعا أنا مع مقدسات ومقدسها المقدسات.
هدف هما شوي رحلة يا أم رسالة كيف بقي هنا عالمي إنه هكا تشلوبو هر عراق فالا نابي اشتنوع وهر وسام كر خلق زانبي أم همو أم سلامة خوازن وفرقايا كينينا وديانة همو جهة احترامي وتقديري.
المحطة الأولى للناشطيين كانت القوش. زاروا إحدى الكنائس المسيحية حيث استقبلهم القس غزوان يوسف وتحدث عن تاريخ القوش والكنيسة.
القرون الأولى كانت القوش مسيحية. عندنا ما بعد المسيح أنه الدراسات اللي عندنا أنه أول مطران تعين في القوش أو دخل إلى القوش سنة 393 ميلادية، مطران ميخا في نهاية القرن الرابع وبداية القرن الخامس. بنى أول دير في المنطقة، أول مدرسة في كل منطقة سهل نينوى.
القوش نقول مثلا إيل قوش، يعني إله القوس مرات نقول، يعني يعني تسميات قديمة. أكو مثلا طير السلام، يعني أكو عدة تسميات.
استكشف المشاركون أثناء جولتهم متحفا يتعلق بتراث وتاريخ آل قوش.
متحف آل قوش جهة كيكافنا وقالك تشت قديمتي دهينا ماذا فيها أم جوان تشتاب بينن دا أم زانبن تراثي مسيحية تشتا وخاصة تراثي آل قوش.
ما تشاهدون الآن هو مرقد يهودي قديم قيد الترميم حفاظا عليه من الاندثار.
هذا كان مرقد النبي ناحوم اللي يعتبر من الأنبياء الصغار، عاش في القرن السابع قبل الميلاد. تنبأ بسقوط الإمبراطورية الآشورية اللي عاصمتها نينوى. هسه في قيد الترميم مثل ما تشوفون انه هو كان راح يوقع، دا ياخذون نفس هذا الحجر مثل ما قلت لهم، دا ينظفوه ويرجعوه مرتله حتى لا يجيبون ما دا يجيبون اي شيء خارجي، حتى يحافظون على هذا المكان.
هناك ديرا مسيحيا قديما تقع في شمالي آل قوش، بني عام 628 بعد المسيح، يسمى بدير ربان الهرمس.
أنا هنا حاليا بدير من أديرة الأخوة المسيحيين، وأنا هنا داخل يعتبر معبد. هذا شعور جدا رائع إنه أول مرة أفوت إلى هذا المكان، وسمعنا عن تاريخه وسمعنا عنه شلون إنه كل واحد هذا محفور بإيد.
براستي أفجهكي قديمة جهكي مزنا البا مسيحية وبهزاريت سالا وكاقوت ندوان أفجيه معايا خده أثبت لي متى أسهل ما فيدري لأن قالك سريت شاية.
اللي عنده أمنية يحكيها بقلبه يعني ويا نفسه، ويغمض عيونه بدون ما يفتحها، يغمض عيونه ويبقى لازم يتجه باتجاه الصليب. فإذا كانت إيده يعني وصلت بالمكان الصحيح على الصليب سنتر، فإنه راح يتحقق أمنيته يعني.
What you want to be? What you want to be in the future?
Peace.
المحطة التالية كانت لالش، المكان المقدس لليزيديين، حيث قام المشاركون بجولة في داخل الأماكن المقدسة، كما استقبلهم الممثل الديني بابا تشاويش.
راستي ام كيف خوشين بهادنا هر كساكي ودريا ما يفكريا بو هر ملتكي هر ديانتكي هر مذهبكي البرما وكو ازدياتي والدين مدى براستي انسانا ما تشجارا فرق جداينها بتشو بشرايا ما تشجارا نهيلان ان منع كسي جينا كيش لالشي وقت خلقي غريتي بالعكس بتر كيف اخو بديني ثاني الروش بروجيان نابا و اف ملتا بتر بروجي ويجري دايا روج هكا نبت جيان جينا روج رونايا دنيايا وقت روج هابت هر تشتوه إذا في ملدي دا روج لقا بيروزا ام صبي وهي فارا ام بري خود دينا روجي وقت دعاء خود كين.
الديانة الإيزيدية يعتبر من أقدم الديانات على الكرة الأرضية، يمتد جذورها إلى أكثر من 4000 سنة. اسم اليزيدية جاي مشتق من كلمة أزداي، أزداي يعني الذي خلقني. لما صارت الطوفان وراء 40 يوم الماء نزلت، كل عيون الماء دا تجي مغوش، فقط هذا العين اللي كان ياسبيت كان تجي ماء صافي زلال. من ذاك الاسم لحد الآن نسمي ثانية ماء صافي.
لالش مهمة قالك وكو جيكي مقدسة أم حموتين زيارة ويتكين مدفتش ديانتي ديج بين زيارة ويبكن دا بزانن كاتشان دا مهمة وبما يزيديا وبو هر دينكي ديها بتن
من وهاو سركم أمرو هاتين بو سرداني لالشي بيروز يمش دو جنوبيا وشي كاكين لدشتيني نوا هاتوين لقال جين خانة
من ويكو بومو ويكو خوشن مي ويكو جوانن مي ودائما حزمة ميو زياتر بلم زياتر زيارة كرم ومعلومات برم إيه سباشن ودريتي باشي وباختيه وقنوع هنا شنرب وقول يشنرب وقنوع دار يشنرب.
شعر المشاركون أن الزيارة كانت مجرد بداية لتعلم المزيد عن بعضهم البعض وللتعرف على مواقع دينية أخرى ومواصلة الحوار.
Today, we are really excited and delighted to have two wonderful panelists. One, Saad Salom, coming from all the way from Baghdad, Iraq, and Sahavi Sanjavi from Sweden, but originally from the Kurdish region of Iraq, present with us. And of course, we have Dr. Ingvild Plesner, who is the researcher and project manager from HL-Senteret and the Inclusive Citizen Project. Now, all of us are gathered together to discuss about interfaith short films and how they are important, especially to deal with this growing concern over extremist voices and actions that show hostility against religious others that has really worsened in recent times. But what we are focusing on is how we can promote positive examples of people of faith who demonstrate different ways of life by embracing inclusivity and dialogue. So I'm going to pass the time to Dr. Ingvild and let her introduce our two speakers, and we will have a conversation about these short films and what does it mean for us today. Over to you, Ingvild.
Thank you so much, Sivan, and greetings to everybody from Oslo. So it's a great honor and pleasure to speak with you, Saad and Sahavi, as always, and thank you for your continued cooperation on this topic. And so I know that both of you have made major contributions to this issue from different angles. And let me first then introduce you more specifically, Saad Salom, who is from Masarat for Media and Cultural Development, and also co-founder of the Iraqi Council for Interfaith Dialogue, as well as the founder of the Institute of Religious Studies. So, and you've made a number of documentary films as part of your important work to promote diversity, acknowledgement, and coexistence based on diversity, not least on religious diversity. So it's a great honor having you here with us. And also Sahavi Sanjavi, who is, of course, as we know, an internationally recognized documentary filmmaker, recently winning an international award for his new film, Imad's Childhood, about a Yazidi boy who escaped from ISIS, but has done a number of documentary films about the Yazidi minority in particular in Iraq and from the Kurdish region of Iraq, and also who has made a number of films more recently also on religious diversity and coexistence. So I would like to ask you first, Sahavi, since the work on coexistence and religious diversity is a topic that you just started working on a few years ago, what is your experience so far in how film can be used in, or if film at all seem to you to be a relevant medium to somehow promote interfaith understanding and by that peace?
I think we all need to have knowledge about each other. And the most strongest way to have peace in a community, if film or short film is I think it's the best medium to reach peace and to receive knowledge about each other. When a filmmaker make a film about his religion or about his community, he have concentrate and go in his truth deeper, to clarify and to make a description of his about themselves, and it make him to understand own religion better first, and to reach with this thought to another people. I think this is most important when a short film as medium can help us to know each other, and it's the first step in good consistency in every community.
Thank you, Sahavi, and we know that you've made films together with the Yazidi team on Peace Journey, where you visited Lalesh, the holy city of the Yazidi, and Al-Qash, the Christian site, and also mosques, etc. So that was a very good example of that meeting one another, seeing each other's places, which is also something that you've been working on, Saad Salom, for a number of years, and also you have been using film in this awareness making and peace building. Can you say something about your experience when people see such films? What is your experience on how that affects them as compared to reading about or hearing only about different religions?
And hello for Seven and Zohavi. I think this is a great opportunity to talk about our experience here in this panel. We are using films since 2009 and send a positive message to the society, to promoting coexistence, and especially to face hate speech, because if you want to build bridges between our community, you need tools, and films is one of the most famous tools that we are using to change the image, especially when we are facing this is horrible crisis, when ISIS occupied Nainawa and other parts of Iraq, and we witness hate speech in social media and see how this hate speech is divided the society. So I think using film is to send positive message, to change stereotype about the other is very important. And let me mention the final event that we are witness, and so how can we see the image could change in media and through films when the Pope Francis visit Iraq, the last visit, successful visit, that really this has changed the image of the Iraq to the international community, because there are stereotypes about Iraq that it's a place for crisis and conflict, and suddenly the international media talks about Iraq as a capital of interfaith dialogue in the Middle East, and the House of Abraham, the southern Iraq, and the Assisi will held in Ur, where Abraham have start his spiritual journey to Middle East. That changed the identity of Middle East and the world. And in the same time, this has changed the image of Iraqis among themselves. So they suddenly start to stop that the Pope Francis visit Iraq. Why? Because Iraq is capital of interfaith dialogue, and the House of Abraham was there, and there are many different historical churches in Iraq. We have 14 different churches in Iraq, and we have 21 different religious sects. So this is really give other possibilities for Iraqis to look to themselves. And this is very important to focus on how the diversity is very important as a permanent resource of wealth in Iraq, not oil, just oil. And at the same time, that unity in diversity, that if we lose this diversity, Iraq will divide it to many pieces. So I think changing image and changing paradigm, or making paradigm shift to make diversity is one of the elements of make the country is more strong. It's through films and through documentaries. So I think using this tool is very important related to this regards.
Thank you, Saad. And I just want to ask you before turning back to Sahavi with one more question. You have used films also in education, in workshops or at the university level? Yes. Or can you say something about how the students react when they are presented to this rich, just current and also historical diversity of the country?
Okay, I think documentaries and films is very important to make the training and the lectures more effective, because you know the image is more effective than the words. So if we have a lecture, even if you are interesting professor, but it's became boring. But if you are using films, it's more interesting to the audience. And even in training, we are using films in training since 2009, and even we provide the trainer with this film to publish it in wider society. So I think one of the most tools to make the training or lecture more effective and really changing the heart and the mind is through using films, because you know the images have deep influence and could change the heart and change the mind.
Yes, it can change the heart and mind, which is also, I think, what is your experience, Sahavi, when you meet with people who see the films that you've been making on coexistence in, for instance, Iraqi Kurdistan to the different religious places? What is your perception of how people are affected by seeing these films to the different religious sites of the Kurdish region of Iraq?
When I worked, I had same question to myself, and I made research. I shot the film, you know, coexistence in Iraq, Kurdistan, to a lot of young people in Kurdistan, and I asked them to let me, you know, it was your idea, you know, do you remember that we made this research? And
sure, but you did it.
I did it, and I received a lot of answers, and they found it was a lot of important information about diversity in Kurdistan, which they didn't know. Yeah. Even they lived in Iraqi Kurdistan, and Iraqi Kurdistan it's not a very big territorium, but they haven't any information about diversity in other parts of Iraqi Kurdistan. And this film helped them to receive a lot of new information. And I think it's very important to have knowledge about another parts of community. It will be easier to meet them. It will be easier to understand them. And I think it's very big, like in Kurdistan, maybe in Iraq, because we have groups, we have organizations which don't want to spread knowledge and information about diversities and their rights and how we must have a contact with each other. And I think the film language and the film medium is very important, as Saad told. More than 70% of our knowledge and information we receive by eyes, and image is very important to educate people about questions, which is very important for our coexistence.
I was very impressed by both of your work and your comments. I'll start with Saad first. I thought it was interesting that you highlighted when people see Iraq, they see it as a center of conflict, not as a center of dialogue, but how, whether it's the visit of the Pope or whether it's the gathering of different religious leaders or through the short films, this is also shaping the future. So the films are not only shaped by the realities of Iraq, which you mentioned, but also through the films and through other educational means, it is also shaping the future. So I'm just wondering now, as we look into the future, what are some of your hopes towards using creative ways like this? And are there any challenges that you see? And what are your thoughts on this?
Actually, I will start from the moment, because we will participate in election through days 10 this month, and Iraqis is looking forward to this election. It will be shape the country with a new image, or maybe it will be returned back to the conflict, because election is, you can use in both sides. Maybe it will be part of solution, or maybe it will be start of a new conflict. So when we are looking for the future, we couldn't determine what will happen. This is, in our experience in Iraq, we are moving from crisis to other crisis, and its stability is not ensured until yet. But if we are ready to peace building process through collecting elements and make these elements are part of our strength to rebuild peace building, I think we can ensure that we are ready if we have a crisis. Maybe we will not ensure that we will have stability for good, or maybe we will not have shining side, witness shining side, but at least we will be ready to face crisis. If we have increase of hate speech because of political reason, religious reasons, we will be ready for it by using these tools. If we have a conflict, we will have our team who are ready to build a bridge between the communities and using popular diplomacy, because if the political doors are closed, at least we have our channels, private channels, to open the doors between our communities through working with youth, working with the clergy from the first and the second levels, and of course working through media and using these tools, the documentaries, the films, help us a lot in this regards. I hope this answers your question.
It's very good. And I think it's a very realistic view of the future. The theme for the Geneva Peace Week this year is actually from seeds to systems of peace, weathering today's challenges. And I think you highlighted of course, when you think about political systems, we also hope that things will be for the better, but let us not forget the seeds of peace that are so important to counter hate speech and to have hope for the future. So thank you so much for that very important contribution. And Zahavi, you have done wonderful films. You have been recognized in your contribution internationally. If you were to look to the future, what are you looking forward to in your work, in maybe even future films, things that you would like to build on, especially to promote peace?
For me, filmmaking is a way to have impact and to change things. And after my experience, 25 years of working in this medium, I see it can help to change things which is not good for our community and for human rights in our life. When I meet my public in different festivals, I see how interesting for them what we can do together to make new steps to peace and for coexistence. And it's very big motivation for me. And I see how important is it for public to see how another people trying with their mediums to have impact on this question. As you told, Iraq is center for crisis and for problem and dilemma, and it's very important to have methods to change this opinion about Iraq. Because we have a lot of problem, we can become a center for dialogue and for solution for these conflicts. And I think the film and filmmaking can be very important part of this aim. And now Ingvil and Holocaust Center and SAT have made a lot of great steps in this way to help young people to make film about their religion, about their problems, and to spread knowledge about them. And it's very important, I think. And all my motivation I take from the public, which I meet in every festival. And I think we have very big ideas and projects in future to continue with that.
And I would just like to, on an ending note, I assume now, to thank you, both Saad and Sahavi, both for your cooperation and your year-long commitment to this issue also otherwise, but also for your contribution to this contest that we've had on making short films, encouraging the public to make short films on interfaith understanding. And we will announce the winners of that for our international online film festival on December 7. And I know that both of you will be there, and Steven as well, where we will present the winning film from that Iraqi contest along with the winners of the Indonesia Film Festival, similarly, that we announced in June. And I would like, as we've discussed with Steven, to maybe encourage everybody to see the film Peace Journey, which is a short film, which is made actually by a young Yazidi team. And I know that both of you know them. Sahavi, you've been advising them on the filmmaking process. And Saad, I know that you know Sahir and Omar also. So Sahir, who has been a producer and project manager, and Omar, who is a very promising, very talented filmmaker. And under some supervision and advice from Sahavi on the making of the film process, they made a film about the peace journey we had a few years ago to Lalesh, Al-Kosh, and other sites in Iraqi Kurdistan, or the Kurdish region of Iraq. So I would also like, as an ending note, to thank the Norwegian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and also the Norwegian Agency of Development Cooperation, which has helped funding these initiatives on the Inclusive Citizenship Project, and not least our dear partner Steven for joining us and for our cooperation in this. So a warm thanks from Oslo.
Indeed.
To all of you.
And on behalf of the Lutheran World Federation as well, it's a joy for me to be part of this project and to listen to both of you. And thank you, Ingvil, also for bringing us together for this conversation. So thank you very much.